Welcome to the Maura Sweeney podcast. Maura is an international speaker, Huffington Post contributor, and the trademarked ambassador of happiness. In 10 minutes or less, Maura weaves clever anecdotes, insightful questions, and personal stories to challenge your mindsets and enable you to live happier from the inside out. Here's Maura with today's podcast for you.
What are you protecting? If you're on a path to living happy from the inside out, today's podcast will definitely help you get there because it's going to deal with this question. Who or even what are you trying to protect? What are you trying to protect? Maybe it's a person. Maybe it's an identity. Maybe it's an idea. Maybe it's a dogma, something that you have trained yourself to believe in for a long period of time. You've convinced yourself that it's right, and you are afraid and resistant to hearing anything that may break up your mindset regarding that person, that idea, or that thing. I want to go back to my own life. My daughter had been in her first year of college, and she called me one day and she said, "Mom, there's a term you need to look up. It's called Stockholm Syndrome." Now, I had never heard of Stockholm Syndrome before, but she said, "Mom, there's something in your life that's going to resonate with this." When I looked up Stockholm Syndrome, which I hope you will do as well, I realized it was a term given to individuals who were actually trying to defend those that were holding them captive. Now, I'll say that again. Trying to defend those who were holding them captive. Imagine that. Have you ever been afraid to look at the truth? To open up your mind, your thoughts, your information base to things you hadn't previously considered because you're too busy protecting someone or something or some dogma or idea that maybe possibly runs contrary to your better interests, and even more than that, your freedom and therefore your greater happiness. Let me give you a couple of examples. Some of you listening may be from a very religious background. Others may be from nominal religious backgrounds or no religious backgrounds at all. But probably each one of you listening today is aware of the idea of a cult, C-U-L-T. This would be a small and very controlled group of individuals that live together, breathe together, have a community that is all of a hive mentality, meaning they all share the very same fundamental beliefs. Now, this can show up in many places to various degrees. The way I've always discovered a cult is when individuals who are so set on their belief system are not allowed to look into any other form of information that may cause them to question what they were already told to believe as ultimate truth. Now, this can show up in many places, but I want you to give some thought to that. Do you realize that you, too, may have spent a time in your life, a pattern in your life might have developed where you have become ensconced in a particular set of beliefs? And maybe one individual, like a cult leader, told you about it. Maybe a political leader told you about it. Maybe a media entity told you about it. And yet, without realizing it, you became so protective of that organization or entity or individual above you that you refused, or even out of fear, to consider any other thoughts other than those that were being brought your way. Now, what does this all have to do with being happy? And what does it have to do with things like Stockholm Syndrome? Our happiness is really at the opposite end of the spectrum from fear. People who suffer from things like Stockholm Syndrome, or people who are so entrenched in defending a particular person or entity or idea or dogma, are afraid to look into anything else that might bring pause or doubt or question or light upon whatever that truth is that they've convinced themselves is reality. And the more people try to protect their belief system, the more they're operating out of a place of fear. And fear will always keep you out of happiness. Fear will also keep you in a place of confinement where you don't really feel like you have freedom. One of the things I remember from decades ago was being at home in the few years I spent with my daughter, so I was always around the house. And from time to time, we would get people from various religions coming to our door in the suburbs, inviting us to join their organization. And they would oftentimes wish to share their version of their religious views and papers and documents. And I remember saying to two young girls that came by, both of whom were probably quite sweet, I said, "You know what? This is very interesting, and I'm so glad you girls are out here speaking." I said, "One of the things I always like to do is open my mind to everything." I said, "Do you both believe that truth is capable of standing on its own?" Meaning that truth does not need help to be truth. It just is truth. And when you hear it, it resonates within you and you know it. And they kind of looked at each other. They didn't know where I was going. I said, "What if I were to share with you this?" I said, "How about I take the information that you are giving to me and I commit to you that I will read it and I will consider it in light of things I do know from my own frame of reference." I said, "Would you be willing to promise me that you would do the same?" I said, "This way you can be either more assured that your beliefs can stand on their own and that you really do believe in them because you can find faults maybe in something else you're reading." And interestingly enough, they both looked at one another and they stepped back and they left my doorstep. Now, where are you in life? Do you have anything going on in your life where you are literally looking to protect a lie, to protect something that you have built up, or maybe others have built up so strongly for you that you're afraid or resistant to look beyond it? I have always been, in spite of the fact that my daughter told me, and rightly so, that I had some Stockholm Syndrome in me because I was protecting some individuals that maybe didn't have my best interests in mind. But for those of you who truly believe in inner happiness and freedom expressing itself as peace, as joy, as light, you will find that if you've been protecting yourself from hearing the truth, from knowing the truth, from hearing from other people whose opinions or doctrines may not be yours, from looking into documents or other events that don't necessarily marry up with what you convinced yourself is truth, you will find that when you do open your mind, when you do open your thought life to taking in more information, that you can actually ask yourself, how does this feel? Does this feel enlightening? Does this feel like truth to me? How do I reestablish my thoughts based on new information? There is something in all of us when we allow a lot of our belief systems to sit at bay while we explore other beliefs and we allow ourselves to compare and contrast them together. We find that not only does the darkness, not only does the fear, and not only does that need to protect all of those issues and belief systems and even people that we were trying to protect, will actually allow you and me and everyone else around us to feel a lot more at home, at peace, and at harmony, but most of all, a little bit happier too. So I hope today will help you out when next time you decide or recognize you've been trying to protect something, maybe to your own disadvantage. Well, this has been my thought for you, but before we go, let's tune in and listen to someone else who wants to share with us what makes them happy from the inside out too. This has been Maura with More for You.
Hi, my name is Casey. I'm originally from Southington, Connecticut, and what makes me happy is sitting at home around the kitchen island on Sundays with a big bowl of pasta and home-cooked meatballs and being with my family and my closest friends. And that's what makes me happy.
For more insights on living happy from the inside out, subscribe to this podcast. To learn more about Maura, visit her moraforyou.com website, where you'll find videos, blogs, books, and the Foundations of Happiness self-study e-course. Maura, 4, letter U.com, where Maura is always for you.